Hello, warriors. I am excited to share with you our new and improved way of giving, which we're now making our universal method across our entire site. When you click that red Give button, you'll be taken to a secure, streamlined giving link. This new system not only makes the process easier for you, but it also helps us save money and use your generous gifts even more effectively. You also have the option to cover the small processing fees, which is a huge help to us. Thank you for standing with us, for your generosity, and for making it possible for us to continue spreading hope and love around the world.
But here, that transcription of God upon the heart of his prophet. How the gold has become dim. The stones of the sanctuary are scattered at the head of every street. The precious sons of Zion, valuable as fine gold, are now regarded as clay pots. Those who ate delicacies are desolate in the streets, and those who were brought up in royal scarlet now embrace ash heaps. Is this what I wanted? But now my fury has ended. Hear me. For I have found a man after my own heart. I have found a man after my own heart, and he is amongst you.
All right, now we turn our attention to the Washington, D.C. swamp, where President Trump's crime crackdown, it is yielding massive results. For the first time that anyone can seem to remember, Washington, D.C., one of the most violent places in America. It has the highest homicide rate in the world, just went an entire week, 7 full days, not one homicide, not one murder.
After we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
I am restoring the fortunes of Zion. I am restoring the fortunes that were the inheritance of my people. I am restoring the fortunes of those that are elect of God and had been stolen from. You shall eat your delicacies again, and your children will no longer be your food. You shall not use them and take them out of the womb anymore, says the Lord.
Welcome to Analysis. Wow, that was incredible to watch that. God truly has sent his David to slay the giants. And so we're going to discuss that today. And of course, Christie Desfontaine is here as usual. And we have some special guests tonight. The AlphaVets, Chris and Israel, are here too. You guys here with us? There they are. Now, if for anybody who doesn't know, Israel and Chris have a show called AlphaVets on Rumble. So I really suggest you go and, recommend that you go and check them out and subscribe to them and watch them. They are incredible code breakers. And we're going to get together today with Christie and all of you, and we're going to have a look at some prophecies together. So welcome, Christie, welcome, Israel and Chris. I'm so glad you could join us today for this special episode of Analysis. And Christie, let's start with you. How are you feeling?
You know, I'm obviously very stoked to have these two guys here. I think we were talking about it before. The last time we were all together was in North Carolina, Donné, where we got locked down on the tent. And, we were out there on the that tour, the Reawaken America tour, and so we all ended up. And I was like, "Oh, this is a perfect way to have to hang out with people. You're locked in a tent without enough snacks. This is great." But they're both awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for being with us, and obviously very excited to have you today. And for everybody out there watching, just encourage you to go follow everything these guys are doing.
And Israel, how are you feeling this afternoon?
I am doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having us on. We highly appreciate it. Obviously, the Clement family and House of Destiny have been a big part of our lives for a very long time, and it's always such a joy to come on here and speak with you all, and we just thank you for another opportunity.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you. Let me tell you something, Israel. You'll catch on to prophecies that I hadn't even thought of, and you are really a true code breaker. My dad would have loved you. He would have been trying to hire you.
And I would have said yes.
I'm sure. And Chris, I'm so glad to see you. You always bring a smile to my face. Chris, thank you for being with us today. How are you feeling today?
I'm great again. Like Israel said, we just thank you again for an opportunity to come hang out with you guys. We feel like family, with y'all. Like it's just, and like I've told you many times, to see all this come for full circle. And for that prophecy, that's the one. That one, February 22nd, that is the one that grabbed me from the beginning of all of this. And it's just, again, it's really cool to be here with you and just see all this come full circle. And we're truly blessed to be here. So thank you.
Well, thanks again for being here. And we have some prophecy to look at and some news. And as everybody saw at the beginning, we played from February 22nd, 2014, for anyone who may be wondering, when you were hearing my dad prophesy in the beginning there, and they were showing the news, we're now beginning to see a lot of that be fulfilled. And so, again, that day, February 22nd of 2014, was an incredible day of prophecy for my dad. God laid out for us a timeline of events. And as more and more time has progressed, we've seen the fulfillment of everything in that word. And so we are feeling very hopeful as we watch President Trump begin to clean up the mess that the enemy tried to make in the United States of America. And we are right in the thick of this war. It is a spiritual war. This is not just about the physical. And as especially since Trump came down that escalator, we have seen more and more of a manifestation of evil, of the enemy, of his plans. But we've also seen God counter those plans. And here at the House of Destiny, we have the advantage of my dad and the prophetic and prophecy. And because of that, we were not surprised. We were prepared. And so that is essentially what needed to happen in order for us to be able to navigate through this time. And so, Christie, we have a prophecy to play, don't we?
We do have a prophecy to play, and something that I just want to highlight really quick is that right now what we've been seeing is that the world has been focused on crime, chaos, lawlessness in America's streets. But what we're showing here is a perspective shift where your dad spoke of something that was genuinely radically different. We're talking about joy, shouting, even dancing in the streets, and the media is calling the cities broken. But God's giving a word saying, through your dad, obviously saying that the streets themselves would be transformed into places of life and victory. And this is one of those moments where we see that prophecy doesn't just predict, it's actually painting a picture of what God intends, even in the darkest of places. And so, again, for everybody watching this, the point of this is for hope to rise in all of us. We can look around, and especially from 2020 to like 2024, I think everybody was like, huh? What happened? I was very stressed. It was a stressful time for all of us, but the word of the Lord did actually come to pass. And so when we go to this prophecy now, and we're going to go from April 23rd, 2006, listen to what it is that God was saying through Kim, and we'll be right back. So let's go to this prophecy now.
They'll be shouting on the streets, shouting on the highways, shouting in the marketplace. The Holy One of Israel will give you a shout of victory. They'll be dancing on the streets, dancing on the highways. God is about to give you life. Are you ready to rejoice on the streets of Hollywood? Listen. nation is crept and hidden behind religious veils. But now God said, as it did when I was on the cross, so a veil is being rent. A veil of religion is being rent from this nation. And God said, out of the caves and out of the back streets, I will raise up your sons and your daughters, and they will arise like with a harp like David, with a shout like Joshua. They will arise with tenacity like Gideon. They will arise, says the Spirit of God, with beauty like Esther. They will arise, your children and your children's children.
Whew. That was Fairfax days. I believe that was 2006. Around that time, my dad, he stopped doing everything he was doing the way he was doing it and went and he rented out the Fairfax High School, and he would just have worship. And those were incredible days back before. It was around about when they moved to Hollywood. That may actually be 2006, maybe a little bit after that. But he did spend a considerable amount of time plowing that region spiritually and prophesying over that region that we see today. Hollywood, California really needs it. But we have another prophecy before we start analyzing, don't we, Christie?
We do indeed. And we're going to go into this in just a moment. And again, very excited to hear what the AlphaVets have to say about this. Both Chris and Israel are awesome, and their perspective is so appreciated, and their code breaking, as Donné has said. So we're about to go into another prophecy, a transcript from May 2nd, 2015, and something that I just want to take a moment and encourage you as we go into this. Remember that what we're talking about here is the future that was predicted in the past is now our present. And God gave Kim eyes to see and ears to hear what the Spirit was saying. And there were things that were shown to him that weren't shown to anybody else. And I mean, you can't really argue that there isn't another prophet alive, or has been in the last, I would say, couple hundred years that has had this kind of accuracy. And that's not really something that can even be argued about. Even people that don't believe kind of get confused when they see it and go, how is this real? How is this possible? And it's because God so clearly ordained and anointed him for a time such as this. But there's a scripture I want to read really quick and encourage you that as we watch this next prophecy, let your heart be opened, and I'm encouraging you to sow into the revival and transformation of American cities, because they're your cities, they're my cities, they're all of our cities, and this is where God has his future planned. And Isaiah 60 verse 18 says, violence shall no longer be heard in your land. You shall call your walls salvation and your gates praise. And that's something prophetic that Isaiah saw for Israel as a nation. And it's something that we can take today as well as a promise for us, having been grafted into the vine. And we're trusting God that from violence, we're going to see victory come. And I'm encouraging you to sow in faith into God's promise. And so as we go into this next prophecy now, let God speak to your heart, move your heart, click the red link, give while you listen, and let God move on you in a way that I know I certainly can't. But we're going to go to this prophecy now, May 2, 2015 from the garden. Let's go to that now.
And that's why I'm in my garden, shaking right now, actually, as the Spirit of the Lord came upon me, because as I was prophesying, another curtain was opened up, and I saw beyond that, and I saw people in streets on their knees, people in the streets of America on their knees. You probably would say that's never going to happen, Kim. Well, I must remind you today that when the prophet Elisha stood outside of the city, they were in deep problems. They were starving. They were actually eating each other up. The prophet Elisha said, tomorrow about this time, there's going to be a change in your economy. And one of the soldiers said to him, this will never happen. Even if God opened the windows of heaven, this won't happen. And Elisha looked at him and said, you will see it, but you will not touch it. And many that could say this could never happen, I say you may see it and never be a partaker of it. I saw people on their knees in the streets of America and crying out to God, whatever it takes, oh Lord, please do it. Whatever it takes, oh God, you do it. Get us to the place where we call to Yeshua again and we call to your name, and it shall happen, says the Spirit of God.
Whew, that's powerful. My goodness. Those from the gardens, he used to Skype into the broadcasts and share whatever was on his heart. Because they used to do 2 broadcasts a week at the Den. And sometimes he would just stay in his garden and pray, and then he would Skype in. And so this was one of those amazing moments where he was actually in the middle of praying and there in the garden, and that garden was so important to him. And so I just want to hear from you guys what you feel as you see this.
Yeah, there's a lot to take away from this, and just in that last one, he talked about one word that actually caught me was he said, if you don't receive it, you will not be a partaker of it. It reminds me of what Peter said, is that you're a partaker of the divine nature. And most people don't receive anymore. I remember many of the prophecies your dad said, if you want to receive it, receive it. If you don't, you won't. And there's a lot of different things like this, especially with what we're seeing in the nation. And I do believe a lot of people are coming back to God. I know one of your father's other prophecies where he says he saw political, social, economical upheaval deluge. And this stuff has been happening, but with how you mentioned Isaiah, one thing that's always stuck with me is what he also says in Isaiah is that Isaiah said, "I'm a man of unclean lips." Why? Because I'm saying what I see now. I'm not saying what I see then. And that's the essence of the prophetic, is speaking forth the future, speaking forth the heart of God. And a lot of people don't do that. They look at their circumstance and they speak forth what is circumstance. And that's one of the biggest things we have to get over, and we have to start speaking forth. And I think, as I know, God is not doing all these bad things in this nation or anything like that, the things that have been happening, but he has allowed certain things to happen, because what is it doing? It's bringing people into the heart of God. And he knows that this is starting to speak forth. And in that unity of the faith, this is where the walls come down.
Absolutely. That's right on. Don't let your present circumstances dictate your perspective. And this is something my dad actually extensively taught on. It's your perspective is going to guide you. So if you're in the moment going, this looks terrible, there's no answer, just like he referred to the soldier with Elisha. This is impossible. It's not impossible. And God is in the process right now of revealing himself in a new way. And just like you said, Israel, that's so true. So many people are coming back to God or coming to God, especially the younger generation who, being raised in this environment and growing up in this environment, talk about the manifestation of the devil. I mean, evil is, like you said, God allowed this. But in doing so, the devil overplaying his hand, the reaction is a generation of people hungry for God. And just really good analysis there, Israel. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, same. People, they scoff at prophecy. Like, we've had conversations on the show so many times that there are churches that don't even believe in it. And I'm like, how can you read the Bible and think that God's just done talking to us, right? Meanwhile, all these things are happening that Kim said would happen. Like, it's scary accurate how all this stuff's playing out. And because of those prophecies, because a lot of us decided to read them and believe what we were hearing through your dad, it's like, I don't feel any stress in all these situations. It's like me and his, it's like you're constantly walking around replaying those prophecies in your mind and seeing how it's playing out on the world stage. And you are starting to see people come back to God. Like, the movement that you're seeing now, and you got to start thinking, like, what would it take to bring people to their knees? To like it says in that prophecy. Well, it's these events that are happening, and I think it's what is going to happen, because we have firmly believed that veil is going to be lifted. Like, these are things that have been always going on, but they did a really good job hiding them from us. And now all these things are going to start to be revealed, right? We say on our show, it's the what they did, but it's why they did it that's really going to, I think, be that gut punch that brings people to their knees, because we can never let it happen again. And I'm just excited to see all these things starting to really manifest in this physical realm we live in.
Well, you know, right after 9/11, my dad released an album of worship and prophecy. It was just raw recording. And he released it, and it was called America on Her Knees. And so, you know, if you go back and you look at my dad's story, especially when it comes to America, he had been prophesying in America, but in 1996, he was in Dearborn, Michigan, and held an event called the Gathering of the Dangerous. And it was from there in Dearborn, Michigan, that he prophesied 9/11. And he prophesied about the beast of the East. And, you know, a lot of it didn't make sense, and then 9/11 happened, and then a lot of stuff made sense. But that beast of the East, that enemy, and what he prophesied outlived him. But what an advantage it has been to us to have these nuggets. And I always say it's like little lights on the path that's been quite dark. And I know I've been so grateful to have these prophecies, because it is like a guide. And so when you see the deterioration of the nation, especially when you're looking at how Trump, it didn't take a lot for him to fix things in Washington, D.C. I mean, we heard in the beginning there where Hannity, and I'm sure everybody's been watching on the news, how quickly they were able to just sort of clear up these problems. And it really, you know, crime being a huge one. And now he's talking about going to Chicago, and you see the, I don't know if it's the mayor or the governor, he's out there shouting, everything's fine, because his reputation and what will be exposed from what they're doing over there. But just this past weekend, there were 50-something people shot in Chicago as he's shouting, everything's fine, we don't need Trump, we're going to fight this, you know, cities have crime. No, this is an obvious problem. And so to the American people and the world, when you see that, and then you see, for instance, in Washington, D.C., how quickly he was able to just clean it up. You can see the way God is using him. And he really needed a particular kind of person in Trump. You know, and it's not what people would have chosen or expected, but it is what we needed. And that's something about God, is he definitely knows not to always give us what we want, but what we need. And, you know, you would have asked me about Donald Trump, maybe let's go back a little further, 15 years ago. I would have said, Donald Trump, I mean, I barely knew anything about the guy. And I certainly wouldn't have imagined he would be president. But God needed someone with that kind of strong alpha personality, and someone with a heart for God, who would be tender in particular to the Jewish people and the Israelis as they have the war that they're in right now. And a businessman who would be able to negotiate in order for us to fix our economy. Death to debt being something he prophesied over and over again for years and years. And as we sit, now this is a situation where we're like, okay, we can't let our perspective of the current circumstances dictate what God is going to do in the future, and that we see these mountains of debt, but we know that one of the things promised through Donald Trump was that what he was going to do with the economy, and so much more, obviously, but the particularly protecting the border, the economy, and the deals between nations that he's been managing. And so I know a lot of people seeing the difference between the crime in their streets and then how, especially in Washington, D.C., how quickly it was cleaned up. You see person after person on the news saying, oh, I'm so grateful. Donald Trump has done this. I feel safe. I can go out to eat. I can, you know, walk in the streets and not be afraid. And again and again, when you see that on the news, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing this too, you can hear the echo of my dad's voice prophesying these very things. And so that was just my 2 cents there. I don't know if you want to add anything, Christie.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the fact that, you know, your dad did prophesy death to death so much, but even in this prophecy that we were just listening to, the reference that he has there is 2 Kings chapter 7, where Israel was in such a horrific state, having been taken captive, and there was nothing, you know, that people were selling pigeon dung. That's how bad the situation was. And there was just, it wasn't just lack. It was absolute, complete poverty in a way that I think we can't even comprehend in today's culture and society, even in the poorest of nations. It was a poverty that went way beyond that. And so what your dad was referencing was one of the most impossible miracles to have occurred ever in all of Scripture. And it has to do with provision. And I find that really, quite amazing, because I know that, we could look at it, and I know economists, and your dad used to call them the prognosticators, will look around and say, oh, well, this and that would happen, or this and that wouldn't be able to happen. And he would, sort of talk about how these experts would say their piece, but they didn't know what God could do. And again, that just brings hope to my heart that even though people might look at America and what's been going on, I mean, right now, to be perfectly honest, I look at the state of Europe and I feel really, really down. I see how Islam has taken over, and I say that with no apology. This was something that was a planned, systematic takeover of Europe without war. And they did it through ideology because they came in and they brought people in. And as you watch the naturalized birth rate decline, and people were coming in, and we saw the increase of children being born as citizens of a nation where their ideology was in complete contradiction to their citizenship. The naturalized citizenship, you're seeing it all over Europe. And this is how we see modern day Islam conquering Europe. Before that, it was, wars and chaos and bloodshed and turmoil. And now it's the mayor of London is a Muslim, and the mayor of this one is that, and the mayor of this one is that. And you see how the doors are being opened to just welcome everybody in. But we see the contrast of that in America. Now, people might complain and say, oh, well, he hasn't done enough. Man, what this guy's accomplished just in the first little while is absolutely wild. And I really do believe that what your dad was seeing there with death to debt, and the fact that he referenced this, because he and I used to talk about this a lot, this particular portion of Scripture. We would talk about Elisha and Elijah all the time, and we would speak about this, and he would talk about it was this complete ridiculous miracle of provision. And he would look at me from across the table and say, Doris, this is a ridiculous miracle of provision. I'd say, yes, I know. No, and, we would kind of laugh about it. But what we need in America is a ridiculous miracle. And we've seen the prophecy from your dad. We see the contrast of what he said, where, we're seeing this prophecy about dancing in the streets, but we're seeing crime in the streets. But Trump's political solution, which was law and order, is going along with God's prophetic solution, which is revival and joy. And we see this vision of revival on the streets of America, people on their knees crying out to God. Well, what drives people to their knees? Hardship. When you have everything and you're content and everything is easy, you don't necessarily always feel the need to ask for something. It's very difficult. And I say this as somebody who grew up in Africa and was surrounded by poverty of a type that doesn't exist in this country. It's very difficult to convince people who have everything that they need saving. It's a lot easier to tell people who have nothing, hey, I've got something for you. But when people think that they have everything, which you see in the West a lot, it's difficult sometimes to say, hey, there's something you need, when you're talking to people who have everything and wouldn't know what lack was if it ran them over in an 18-wheeler truck. But we're seeing here how prophecy confronts unbelief just as Elisha did. And really what I hold on to there is that what your dad said was what looks impossible will happen. And we could see that, America's lawless streets today could become tomorrow's altars of repentance. And that's what I'm hanging on to. It's just hope. Hope that the impossible can still be possible because we serve the same God who did those miracles back then. So that's just the little connection point that I saw about, death to debt, and it being about provision, about need, and about something that was a ridiculous miracle. So, yeah.
Yes, that is right on. You remember Conquer Your Mountain? He had the mantle and everybody had Conquer Your Mountain. And all of those things were so prophetic. Which I heard one of you, Israel or Chris, which one of you was it that was speaking of? I didn't know which one it was.
That's probably me.
Go ahead.
No, there's a lot of very interesting things, especially with what Trump is doing. And I do believe like the plan was so brilliant, it could only have been given by God. A lot of people are expecting the military to come in and clean up the streets and take out certain bad characters and stuff like that. But now you kind of see how he intended to do it. And I don't know if it's just spiritual discernment, but you see him come in and clean up the streets of D.C. He familiarizes the people with the military. He doesn't send them to all these different states at once and causes chaos. God is not a God of chaos. He's a God of order. And so you see this coming in, he familiarizes it, and then people are like, well, we want this. And I find it interesting that it's Chicago now that is probably going to be up next, because that is one of the worst cities by far. So you go up and you clean up Chicago, all these states are going to be begging for it. And as you clean up the streets, and you may see chaos throughout the nation in different aspects of rebellion or witchcraft or what have you, I do remember how your father prophesied about in the midst of the chaos, resources would be released. And it is just like God to come in and drop a ridiculous provision in a moment where it does not seem like it's possible. And so that death to debt, I have the words running in my head of Trump saying, we're going to pay off the debt and we're going to enter into a golden age, as he was campaigning for this previous election. And I do believe God has built the resources, and things are about to get really gnarly within the provision side of things. But just having the spiritual discernment within whatever type of chaos may happen or it may seem to be happening, that you need to be sound in God's word and understand where you're headed, because we are somewhere in the future and it looks much better than it looks right now.
That's absolutely true. Very well put, Israel. And Chris, you guys are both veterans.
Yes.
And so you guys both maybe have a little bit of a better understanding of how this stuff works. So he sends in the National Guard, and they're just assisting the police.
Yes. I mean, first and foremost, like, you see people that say, well, remember your oath. The military's oath is to support and defend the Constitution, period. It's not to support and defend the president. We don't swear an oath to a president. We swear an oath to protect the document and the people of this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So there are things that he did. You know, me and Iz talked about on the show. It started with LA. All right. So you send the National Guard in, boom, shut it down. And there was no big, you're getting the people used to, hey, this is our job. Like, our military's job is not to get sent all over the world and defend other nations' borders. It's to defend our country and that document. So he sends troops to LA. Then what does he do? He plants 2 flags in DC, right there at the White House. What do you do when you're taking back something? When you're taking back occupied territory, you mark it. You plant your flag. It makes sense. You start with DC. DC is a huge problem. If I'm any world leader and I'm coming to the America, we're supposed to be like this beacon of light for the world. And I come to the capital city and I see squalor and I see all this nastiness. I see all this crime. What's going to be my thought about the rest of the country? So you have to start there. You have to start there. And me and Iz said, when he made that decree on our show, we said he's going to be so fast and he's going to do it so quickly that people are going to start begging for him to do it in their cities. And it was less than 2 weeks, and they already started right out because it was that quick. And it is. And that the military, they are not there if you're not breaking the law, if you're not causing this country disdain and harm and citizens, they're not going to mess with you. But if you're breaking the law, if you're doing things, drugs, trafficking, all that, yeah, that's why they deputized them. A lot of people didn't realize that they deputized. The marshals were deputizing these National Guard members. So to see all this really start to play out, I mean, we've been waiting for a long time, for this move. We knew it would come. We told people it was coming, and they look at you like you're crazy. We told people that the Federal Reserve, all this stuff's got to go. If you got to deal with the debt, you have to deal with the cause of it. You cannot continue to live in oppression and slavery, and we're all debt slaves. And now to see all these things happening, like him picking a fight with the Federal Reserve is not by accident. This is how he's going to deal with this giant, right? What did your dad say? They will be shocked at how he takes this giant down. And people are now sitting back in amazement watching all of this unfold. And if you're rooted in these prophecies, you're just sitting here smiling, watching God do his thing. And it's such a great time to be alive. I'm so excited.
It really is. Right, Christie? I can see you smiling over there.
I was just
Christie.
thinking now, because obviously, I'm from South Africa. We don't really have a military, or if we do, it's like not really something that we're super proud of.
Yeah.
I don't know that we even have one, and if we do, I think we're linked to Russia, so like it's not great.
And my dad served in the
So did
army.
mine. Our fathers served at the same time, actually, and they were sent to the same. They were sent to the same area. Fun fact, because they both got into trouble for insubordination, and so they both got sent to the area.
Shocking.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Me and Kim were just alike.
They literally got into trouble with their sergeants or whatever. So they both got sent off to Bloemfontein, which was the height of punishment. And they both got sent there, which is rough. But I just wanted to actually ask, because I think one of you is an Air Force veteran and one is a Marine veteran. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I know that in LA, because obviously I live in Los Angeles, it's not by choice, it's because of work. But I know that in Los Angeles, part of what was happening is that people were freaking out because a particular Marine Corps group was called up. And everybody was like, you don't understand what these Marines are like. And so I was just like wondering what your take is on that, because I think, like, for me, coming from South Africa, we've never really seen the military do anything, but I think it's just for like somebody like me doesn't necessarily always know what that means. Like, what does it mean when the military suddenly is involved as opposed to like just your regular cops? And I don't mean any offense by that. I just mean, I know that Marines are obviously very highly trained, etc. And I know some about the IDF because of Doobie. He's definitely explained a fair amount of it, of the IDF's protocols to me. But just like your perspective on it, like, what do you think that meant when President Trump said, okay, it's this group of military that we're going to send into Los Angeles, for instance? Like, what does that mean about what he's thinking about the state of California?
So my take on the Marines coming up, I think there's a couple different reasons why. Now, obviously, Marines are known for Marines are bred to kill, right? That's their main objective. But it's more of a presence, and there's one of the biggest Marine Corps bases right next to LA. I was stationed there at Camp Pendleton. And
cool. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Camp Pendleton.
So yes. It is so easy to bring up those divisions to LA and to have the Marines there and just have them kind of like I said, just having that presence. People look at it and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to really mess with the Marines. We might mess with the National Guard, but the Marines, let's just not even deal with this. So it's probably more of a presence thing than anything.
But it's interesting. But I also did just find it funny. I know it's weird, whatever. But I watched this guy called David Goggins, and just I listened to some of his. Like, such a hardcore dude, and like I've read his books and stuff, and I find it so fascinating. But just seeing that, I think it's a similar thing. And again, just jumping back to the prophecy of Kim's, he speaks about a veil being torn. And if you think about what happened when Jesus was crucified, the veil was torn, and that was the separation between the holy place, the most holy place, and all the people. There was a division where only the priesthood could enter. And so what it released was the presence of God into the whole earth. And I find it interesting, Israel, that you speak about how it's kind of just a presence thing, because there is a power in that. There's a power in people's presence. There's a power in, obviously I'm not comparing the presence of a person to the presence of God at all, but it definitely goes to show that there is something to be said for doing these various actions, because it does impact the atmosphere. And I think that was probably an incredibly smart thing to do, because even me, this like random girl from Africa, was like, ooh, the Marines are coming. People in LA better watch out. Coming. We'll check it out, see what happens. And also stayed away from the chaos as much as I could. But, I just find it interesting that, like you said, the presence of something can really shift that atmosphere and dynamic.
Marines are good. They're good. And they're never going to, especially do in the U.S.
Yes.
In country, they're going to do everything they need to do. But when it comes to U.S. citizens, absolutely not. They're just going to be there for the presence.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anyway, Donné, that was just a...
You know what? But you know what? Trump is all about optics. he makes sure, like when he went to see Putin, he made sure that they were filmed next to each other, walking next to each other. You can see how much bigger Trump is compared to little Putin. And then he flies the jets overhead.
Power.
And, like you said, that presence is of strength. And, I just have to say, as a small woman, I feel great about it. I feel safe. I don't mind at all because I'm not doing anything wrong. But, obviously the other side will start shouting, about how, Trump is a dictator and everything. But you know what? They've been doing that for so many years. And at the end of the day, people can see results. And so they can fearmonger all they want. They can shout and throw their toys out of the cot all they want. But God is doing what God is doing, and he really is using President Trump. And we just have to keep praying for him, because I would not want his job. I would not want to have to do what he's doing. You really had to be made one of a kind in order to handle this, and he certainly is. But he will definitely continue to need our prayers through all of this. And God wants us involved. That's the other thing I've realized through all of this. He isn't just going to do everything for us. He wants to do it with us. And I was saying that after the election, especially Chris and Israel had me on their show on election night. You guys remember I was so stressed out. I was on my patio on their live show just holding my head. But God showed up. And, all of our fears were alleviated from what happened in 2020, which I truly believe was another way in which God said, allowed America to be on their knees, saying, oh my goodness, this Biden administration, where he wasn't even really running things, the auto pen and all the stuff. And, but I understand why. Because had that not happened, Trump would not have been able to do things the way he's doing them now. And so, I just want to encourage everybody to keep having faith in God first, and pray for your leaders. Even if you maybe aren't a fan of Donald Trump, you can, without question, see results. And we're just in the beginning. He's still got 3 more years. And so it'll be up to us to keep praying for him and doing what we can, and doing our part, because that's very important too. But we are out of time. So you guys are going to have to come back. I'm thinking maybe you should come on Code Breakers Live again with me, where we can get people in the chat and start pulling the prophecies up. But it is always a pleasure and an honor to have both of you. And we do see you as family, and we so appreciate that you are able to recognize how much is in these prophecies, because it does, not everybody can see it. Like you said earlier, not all churches even believe in prophecy. And, I don't even get mad at that. I just pray for them, because it is if you want it, it's there for you. And God has given us a very precious gift in the prophetic, and not just through prophets like my dad, but within our own selves. The Holy Spirit through us is so important, and it's really important in this move. As God is moving, that he's moving through his people, and that was something Dad kept seeing. And so it's actually been such a beautiful experience, as difficult as it is, as frustrating, as hard as it can be sometimes. We know that at the end of the road, at the top of the hill, there's that promise. And so we continue to remind God what he promised through my dad, and to us as we war together as the warriors of the new millennium. And that's what he saw, a group of warriors that the church would not expect, people who were scarred and tattooed and pierced and unusual and not fitting a mold. But now we understand that mold has been broken and the whole world is changing. And God is doing that. We're moving forward constantly. And that's what prophecy is about too. Constant revelation and constant movement forward. And so Donald Trump is the best guy to do it right now. And he definitely doesn't stop moving. The poor guy took the weekend off and everybody said he was dead,
Yeah.
which I couldn't believe that's what they want. But the enemy will not get that. God will protect him. And so I just wanted to say that before we go. I don't know, Christie, if you want to add anything before we leave
No,
today.
I just wanted to thank the guys for coming on. Really appreciate having you here. And I would advocate to Donné that not only do they join you on Code Breakers Live again, but that they join us here again on Analysis, because that would be very nice. So it's nice to get some other sane voices and chat. So thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you for being with us, everybody. If you want to watch the AlphaVets, they have an incredible broadcast that they do on Rumble. So search for AlphaVets on Rumble and subscribe to them and watch their broadcast, because they are truly anointed for this hour. And we really believe that here at the House of Destiny. And again, we're so grateful. Thank you so much for joining us. And Christie, thanks for joining me as usual. And we will be back here next week for Analysis. Hello, friends. I'm Donné Clement Petruska, and I am honored to invite you to something truly extraordinary, the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Now you can gain unprecedented access to my father's entire digitized video archive. Every prophetic moment, every powerful teaching, every anointed worship session is now available to you in the Prophecy Vault. Plus, I'm excited to share that my dad's special School of the Prophets teachings are included, offering you deep, transformative lessons on hearing God's voice and understanding his revelations. Your partnership is crucial. Not only will you gain access to these incredible resources, but you'll also help us continue the vital work of preserving, digitizing, and adding new Kim Clement material to the archives. I'm inviting you to step into the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Let's embark on this journey of revelation together, and I can't wait to see you inside. We have Andrew Sorcini from Beverly Hills Precious Metals with us today. If someone has a 401k, can they take some of that and purchase gold as an investment for their future?
They can, and it's a great way to do it, because if you have an IRA, a government TSP account, a 401k from a company that you used to work at but don't work at anymore, or if you still work at the company and you're over 59 and a half, these can be rolled over into a precious metals IRA. And if you were to speak to your financial advisor about it, they'll tell you, oh, this is a taxable event. They'll tell you things like gold and silver are volatile. But really, the thing is, they don't want you to get into precious metals because it doesn't benefit them monetarily. I'm here to tell you that your accounts can be rolled into a precious metals IRA without it being a taxable event. You would own real gold and silver that is stored in a third-party depository that's insured in a lockbox with your name on it.
So if someone goes to bh-pm.com, is that the correct website? Okay, and that's going to be on the bottom of the screen. If they go there today, what do they need to do?
Okay, so there's an online form there, and the form, almost every page on the website has the online form. So you just fill in your first name, last name, email address, telephone number, say that Kim Clement sent you, or the House of Destiny. We'll know what you mean. And in the notes section, be as detailed as you can. Sometimes people put things in there like, I'm a complete novice. I really don't understand precious metals. I've been wanting to understand. I want to invest, but really, I need more information first. Then put that in there. If you're someone that's been investing in gold and silver for years and really don't need a consultation, you just want to check prices, then put that in there.
Everybody watching, if you are interested in precious metals, this is where you want to go. Thanks again.
Thank you.